Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, we're rolling. It's Friday night, Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. We're just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 184 of Gridiron Grinder, and for tonight, we're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium, just like we always do. Then we're going to cover the news from this past week. After that, we're going to give you guys the pre-draft team needs for the AFC. And so it's a little bit early, but I got some vacation stuff going on, and we want to get it in now. When I get back from vacation, we'll do the NFC. Then we'll sneak in a little bit of a mock draft thing right before the actual draft happens. And so anyhow, after the pre-draft AFC team needs, we'll close it off with our question of the week. And so, yeah, man, with all that being said, how's it going tonight there, bud?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. I had the day off today, so, just been chilling, doing odds and ends and low key day. Actually took about an hour nap on the couch this afternoon. Felt great, man. Felt great. So I'm feeling about as good as I could get right now.
That's cool. I don't get so lucky to have random days, random Fridays off. So
Yeah, especially random days where you can take a nap, right? So
yeah,
even if
exactly.
you got the day off, you probably got family commitments, right? So,
Well, if
uh,
I get the day off, the wife wants to do something generally. So if I get an extra day off, and so we go do something. So it's not like I'm just chilling at home. Like in the weekends maybe, but
yeah, it's a different kind of fun and a different kind of chilling. But,
yeah,
for
exactly.
me, I was just totally solo, just rolling on my own. So, but yeah, man, hey, whenever you're ready there, James, why don't you do a little name that stadium for us?
All right, as you can see, I'm traveling around different stadiums, host NFL games, try to tie it into something for the week. And first
Yeah, I'm
person guess,
curious why you picked tonight, by the way, but go ahead. Sorry.
first person guesses right, get an extra shout out, bookmark it. You can play it back to all your friends. Nobody guesses anymore. I don't know why I go through this whole spiel anymore. I should just tell them last week I was at Ford Field because we were talking about uh, free agency signings and we're doing the NFC last week, so it
Speaking of
kind of
which, you
tied in.
see my Kool-Aid shirt.
Drinking that.
Drinking the Kool-Aid, my man.
Yeah. So every chance I get, I like to go to Ford Field because I mean, well, last year was this past season was a little different, but normally there's not much to talk about for the Lions during the season.
Yeah, we had a couple rough years the first few years of the show. Now all of a sudden it's getting exciting, and yeah, you can't get there enough, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like how many pictures of the stadium can you get where you keep it fresh? That's like the challenge now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Well, that's cool. Well, yeah, I mean, hey, hopefully we'll get a taker, and if we don't, so be it. It's a part of the show that only takes about a minute to do, so we're going to keep it rolling.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, let's move on and do our recap of the past week here, James. And so, right off the bat, man, before we hit the record button, you were talking about a trade that just came in. What's going on there, dude?
Yeah. So like I just saw it. Like I missed it. I had shit going on at work, so it was apparently. I guess it was earlier today. About 2 hours ago, 3 hours, 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago, whenever the fuck it was. Philadelphia traded Hassan Reddick to the Jets, and the Jets sent a conditional third round pick that improves to a 2026 conditional third round pick
Wow.
that can improve to a second rounder if he reaches if he plays for 67.5% of the time and has 10 sacks this year.
Dude, that's such a cheap fucking trade. And he'll provide value for the Jets with Robert Saleh on that defense.
Oh, I apologize. The Philadelphia also got Bryce Huff back. I no, wait, no. Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm sorry. This is weird. Hold on. So
No,
Bryce Huff
they brought in
left in
Reddick to
free
replace
agency.
Bryce Huff because
Yeah.
they lost Bryce Huff in free agency.
And then down here, oh, Bryce Huff signed a free agency deal with the Eagles.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, so they're just
Okay,
giving
so
you
that's
two
why.
parts of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, because like the second or third paragraph in the article says basically the Jets and Eagles swapped edge rushers, and I was like, wait a minute. So I
Yeah.
was like, look back up. I was like, Bryce Huff, and I didn't
Well, I
actually read.
I remember a while ago that they gave Hassan Reddick permission to seek a trade, but like I just didn't even think any of that was even still going on because it was such a long time ago at this point. But yeah, Reddick, he had that good year a couple years ago, and he's wanting to like stay as highly paid as he can be. Philly, you know, maybe some of it's because I mean they're obviously paying Bryce Huff now, but um, not like it's not like they got a huge haul in that trade. They got almost nothing to get rid of the guy, right? So it
Yeah,
helps
so
them from a salary cap standpoint, and they've kind of already backfilled him anyhow.
yeah, and with Reddick being in the last year of his contract, that's probably why it was so discounted.
Hmm.
And it's like a $15 million base salary this year
Yeah.
for him. So I mean, it makes sense that it was so discounted, but I mean, and also, and that's the thing about it. The article pointed out that if Reddick leaves in free agency after this year, the Jets will get a compensatory pick the
Oh yeah.
following year.
Yeah. And depending on how good he is, it could be as high as a third round compensatory pick.
Yeah. So basically, what traded their 2026
Yeah,
whatever
nothing, dude.
third round pick for a 2026 third round pick.
All right. So, in other news, the Dolphins have extended Raheem Mostert. Looks like it. Well, I'm sorry. They agreed on a new 2-year deal, so it's not like really an extension. It's just kind of like
It was an additional year.
an additional year. But yeah, so it's like they're calling it a new 2-year contract worth up to 9.075 million, which is
Hmm.
good. He had a really big year last year. Before this past year, obviously, he's had a lot of injury stuff going on. But I think him and Devin Achane, or however you say his name, they're a real good combo back for McDaniel in that offense, and they're getting him at a great price, man. So
Hmm.
I think that's a good signing.
Yeah, it was a good signing. They got the extra year because I guess he was going into the last year of his contract, so it probably gave him a little bit of a pay raise. I'm trying to look to see. I'm
And
not
if I'm
seeing.
not mistaken, he led the NFL in rushing touchdowns last year.
It actually says this in the article. 2022. He led the league with a franchise record 18 rushing touchdowns
Yeah, he
and
had a big year, man.
21, 21 total touchdowns.
Now the question is, how much of that can they replicate because the offensive line has lost like 3 guys or whatever. So,
Yeah.
you know,
That's going to be the kicker is that offensive line is kind of going
or
to be a
actually no,
little more
they
poor.
brought back Teron Armstead, right? But they lost
Yeah.
Marcus Hunt or no, what's his name? Yeah, Marcus Hunt or Robert Hunt, something Hunt, and then Connor Williams is gone. Um, yeah, so either way, they got to beef up that offensive line, man. They're gonna have to do something in the draft, and especially because they're gonna be paying Tua soon. So you got to protect that shit.
Yeah, so he had for 2024 his base salary was yeah, so they about doubled his salary for 2024 because his salary for 24 was 2.4 million.
Yeah, for a dude that had 20 fucking touchdowns.
Yeah, so they
Oh,
bumped him up to average value of 4.5
Yeah.
or so.
Yeah, I think it's a steal. I think that was a really good deal.
Yeah, I think it was. I agree with you there.
So then we got the Jaguars. They signed their linebacker Foye Oluwakin, however you say his name, to a new 4-year deal worth 45 million. It's got
I thought it
22
was
and a
a
half
three
million
year.
guaranteed.
I thought it was a 3 year deal.
See, the one I'm looking at says, well, maybe it's like a 3 New Year thing, just kind of like you're talking about with Mostert, because they're saying it's a
Yep.
new 4-year deal.
Oh yeah, it was a 3 year extension. So
Yeah,
so yeah.
yeah. I don't. So James, you probably remember a couple weeks ago I was complaining about how when they would show some of the signings for teams, they would show they extended a guy versus they brought in a guy from like, a free agent signing or whatever
Hmm.
versus a trade, but they weren't always like delineating between an extension and
Hmm.
like a fresh free agent signing from another team. And this is kind of what it is. It's like, okay, well, tell us, are you extending the deal or is this a free agent signing? Because, like for some of them, we know it's obvious, right? Like Mostert had 20 touchdowns last year. We know he was there, but it just, they could get more consistent with the language, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, and see the interesting thing about it is so the deal with Aluakun, it was a 3 year extension worth 45 million max. So his 3 year contract, he was entering the final year of a 3 year contract worth 45 million. So he didn't get a pay raise with it.
Yeah, that seems kind of strange, right?
Yeah, so they just signed more or less the same contract. And but with the 3 year extension, they took his salary cap figure down
Yeah, it
from
was a team
21
friendly thing.
21.7 to 13 million.
Okay. Yeah, and so he probably got whatever signing bonus or something so that it was worth his while, but also team friendly too.
Yeah. So it was 22 and a half guarantee is probably where he got that. Plus well, I mean, he did get some incentives added into the contract so he could earn himself over the life of the contract an additional 3 million.
That's not really that much when you consider it's a $45 million deal, right? But still,
Yeah.
better than nothing. Um, all right, so
That's what, a
James,
15th of a percent.
so um, so this past this week we're starting to get a lot of pro days, right? So you've got
Hmm.
Caleb Williams had his pro day, Drake May had his pro day, Jaden Daniels, which had like the LSU wide receiver neighbors as well. Have you heard or seen or anything about how any of those have gone, man?
I've seen a little bit.
They're
I
obviously highly scripted and set up to make these guys look good, but is it
so
all it's cracked out to be so far?
so like the only thing I really saw was Penix had a sub 4.640
Okay,
at his
so
pro day,
he can move. All right.
which is pretty good for a quarterback. Um, One thing I did see, and this just goes right into my argument that Drake May is the best quarterback in the league or in the draft this year, and it comes from McAfee, who was with the Colts organization, um, about how Drake May and Andrew Luck are very similar
Okay.
players,
Prospects. Yeah.
prospects, and how, and which, when Andrew Luck came out, he was like a no-brainer, like he's going to be a
Yeah.
franchise quarterback. I
The
mean,
highest rated quarterback ever, basically. Yeah.
yeah. So if he lives up to that comparison, if he lives up to 80% of that comparison, like talent-wise, that's because Andrew Luck had a chance to be if he would have had a longer career, one of if not the most talented quarterbacks to play the game.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you look at how shitty that team was without him. It
Yeah,
goes to show you that it's like, wow, they really gave him nothing to work with, and yet they somehow won like 11 games every year he was there.
exactly. But it just more solidifies my point where I see Drake May as the best quarterback in this draft. I mean, granted, North Carolina quarterbacks have not done very well in the NFL. A la, what's
Sam
his
Howell.
name?
Sam
Oh,
Howell.
I was Sam Howell, but wasn't Mac Jones from North Carolina? Not Mac
No,
Jones.
Alabama.
Danny Dimes.
Duke, I think.
Was he from Duke? You
I
might be
thought
right.
so.
You might be right on that. God, what the fuck's his last name?
Daniel Jones?
Oh, thank you. I was right. It was Jones. When I said Mac Jones, I just started really fucking second guessing myself.
You cross those lines in the brain, man.
Yeah. So he was from. No, you're right. He was from Duke.
Every now and then a blind squirrel gets a nut, James.
Duke, North Carolina. What are they? 5 miles apart.
Yeah, and they both got blue, and it's confusing.
Yeah,
so.
they both have blue. They're both in North Carolina.
Not normally known for football.
Yeah, not normally known for football. I think there was another one.
Out of North Carolina?
Yeah.
There probably was.
Let me see if I could spell.
North Carolina quarterbacks. Tell me, Google machine or ChatGTP.
Where's football? Tar Heels football.
A history of NFL drafted Tar Heels quarterback. Oh, Mitch Trubisky.
That's it.
Yeah.
Mitch Trubisky was the one I was thinking of as the.
Yeah, I have no doubt that was the other one in your mind. Yeah.
I just got them crossed with Daniel Jones because they weren't even in the same draft, so I don't know what I was thinking.
No, Trubisky was a while ago now, but compared to Howell. But
Mitch Trubisky was that pick where Chicago traded up for him.
Yep.
And they selected him, and I literally said out loud, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I thought, oh my God, we either as Lions fans just got extremely lucky, or Chicago sees something that nobody else does. And Chicago did not see something that nobody else did. It just was a horrible fucking choice.
Well, I mean, because they drafted Trubisky over Mahomes, Watson. Watson was the player that I thought was the best quarterback in that draft. I didn't know much about Mahomes at the time.
No,
Watson
Trubisky
was
the surprise, right? Trubisky was like the prototypical size, everything everybody thought he'll develop. I always get nervous with these quarterbacks now when they say they're going to bank on them developing and they draft them that high. It's like, I don't know, man. You need to see a little bit more out of them now because these guys come out of college ready to roll. If the guy still needs to develop, don't be taking him in the top 3 like that, man.
Oh, 100%. And I didn't understand that pick, trading up for Trubisky. I thought they were trading up, honestly, when they traded up, because it was a draft night trade from what I remember.
Yeah, with the 49ers, yeah.
With the 49ers, yeah. First of all, the 49ers weren't going to take a quarterback.
No, they fleeced them, dude.
Why the fuck did you trade with the 49ers?
They convinced Chicago that other teams were going to trade up with them for a quarterback. And so Chicago, blindly, bidded it up to get the spot because they didn't want to get leapfrogged.
Yeah, and then, and then, so I was certain, I was 100% certain that they were going to take Watson.
Yeah, and keep talking. I got to blow my nose.
For all his flaws with Watson, like, now all his flaws, like he had like what, 3 awesome years in Houston. So I never got that pick. And then, I mean, Mahomes was the surprise from it because nobody really knew about him. I'm trying to think, what other quarterback? I think those were the 3.
Yeah, I remember Mahomes coming out, and he was behind Alex Smith, and so
Mm-hmm.
it was everybody knew it was going to be at least like a 1 year developmental thing, but a first round pick, so he was probably going to get to start. It was just a matter of time, and he had the wild hair, and everybody said he had this crazy fucking arm talent, and he just needed to develop, and it was like. But the thing is, they didn't fucking trade the farm to get him, and they didn't pick him in the top 3. So it was kind of like, okay,
They
you took a high first round pick on a quarterback, but you gave him time to ride the pine behind Alex Smith, and you had Andy Reid and whatever. That's like about as good as you can do it, right? If you're going to take a guy in the first round.
Yeah, so they gave up their first round pick, which was 27 overall, their third round pick, and their 2018 first round pick.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So they do some stuff to get up there, yeah.
Where Chicago gave San Francisco for first, third, fourth. Eh, it's
Yeah, but they only
it's
moved up what, one
Yeah,
spot?
they only moved up one spot. So they got their first, third, fourth, and 2018 third
Yeah,
for that
that's a
trade.
lot for moving up one spot, man.
Yeah, but also I forgot that Houston had traded to get up to 12 in that draft. Where for first Philadelphia traded the okay traded their first round, first, third, and fourth round. Oh, so that was part of the who's the quarterback that. So Houston traded their first round, which was 25, and a 2018 first round for Watson. I have to go back to the 2016 draft because I think that was the Carson Wentz debacle.
Oh, gotcha. With Wentz and
Where
Jared Goff.
where Philadelphia traded up to the second pick.
Yeah, they did the
Um,
double trade, right? Like they traded up to get another first round pick, and then they paired him up to move up again.
yeah, so they got first. No, it was just a first, third, fourth in 2016, 2017 first, and second in 2018.
Oh, okay. I don't know why. I thought that was the one where they
No,
traded up to get an extra first round, and then they used both first round to get higher in the first round.
that was Chicago with Justin Fields, if I remember correctly.
I'm thinking something before that, but that's all right. Either way, it's okay.
Yeah, like I remember what you're talking about, and I remember it, but I thought it was closer. Like I thought it was the Fields.
Eh, eh, eh. We don't have to get into it all tonight, James. We still got some news to cover and some things to do, people to see, nobody
No,
to
that
watch
wasn't
the
even the
video.
field. That wasn't even the Fields one. God, that's gonna bug me now that you mentioned it.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm talking about. So I know it. I
That
know
was
it was
San
a real
Francisco. That
thing.
was
I'm
San
just
Francisco.
mixing it up. No, it
San
definitely wasn't San Fran.
San Francisco. No, it was San Francisco. It was.
No, they
It
might
was.
have done it, but they're not the team that I'm thinking of that did it.
Oh, really? Because no, it wasn't San Francisco either. Because that's San Francisco traded 3 fucking first round picks for Trey Lance. Huh. I don't remember.
It's okay. It's okay.
Like, I remember it happening, but at some point I'll have to go back and I'll go back and find it because that Trey Lance trade was ridiculous. So I'm sorry. For the third pick, San Francisco traded first and second round selections in 2020. I'm sorry. Miami traded first and second round selections in 2020, as well as offensive tackle, blah, 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 for Kenny Stills, Laramie Tunsil. I'm sorry, Houston traded with Miami, blah, blah, blah. And then Miami traded a first round selection, the third overall, to San Francisco in exchange for 2021 first round, 2022 2022 first and third, and 2023 first round. All right, you're gonna bug me. You got me down a path. I'll have to find the answer later.
Yeah, it's it's bugging me now too. But all right, so let's no, this is all right. This is what it is. It is Philly because what they did was they traded from 13 to Miami's number 8 pick, and then they used that number 8 in a package to get up to number 2. That's what I was thinking of. Is so they had to trade up twice in the first round. So they had to get a higher first round pick to make that pick enticing enough to package again to get even higher in the draft.
Yes, that is it.
That's what it was. Because you don't ever see that where a team moves up twice in the first round. And so that's what the trade was.
Yeah, so they had 13, so they traded up to 8, and
And
then
then from
traded up
8 to
to.
2. Yeah.
Yes, okay, that is. I found it. It's just the notes for the trade to 2.
It
I had
gets
to go
very
down to.
confusing.
Yeah, I had to go down to the 8th.
All right. So keeping it moving, James. Philly, they're crazy. You know, they work all their magic. Um, Jadeveon Clowney, love him, hate him, whatever. He signed a 2-year deal with the Panthers. I
Mm-hmm.
don't like it at all. I don't understand why Carolina would bring him on. Um, 2 years, 20 million. That's a lot of money for a guy that is kind of just like a journeyman, sort of a bum, in my opinion. You know, he's
Yeah.
just never lived up to expectations. And yeah, he can play, but he's not going to be a consistent game changer for you.
Mm-hmm.
You should have just fucking hung on to Brian Burns, but whatever.
Yeah. Carolina's its own animal. I don't understand what they're doing there. It
Yeah,
makes no sense.
I think it starts with the owner that was a dickhead and threw his fucking cocktail on a Jags fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and it's just gonna like shit down the whole organization. I don't see anything good happening with Carolina in the near future.
Yeah, I don't either.
So this one you'll like. Tre'Davious White, we've always been a big fan of him with Buffalo. You know, injured recently and had some issues staying on the field, but he has signed a 1-year deal worth up to 10 million with the Rams. I think that's a pretty good signing considering they lost Aaron Donald. They got to start getting some reinforcements on the defense. You know, you're
Mm-hmm.
never going to replace a guy like Aaron Donald, but the best thing you can do is start spreading it around and having maybe a more balanced defense now, right? Because that
Yeah.
one guy's not going to take fucking triple teams anymore for you.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. You need to kind of beef up the line because your line was playing above and beyond what its talent was because you had 3/5, 60% of the offensive line focusing on one player.
yeah, and if the line's not going to be sweet, you better have a sweet secondary. Otherwise, they're going to be exposed. So,
Exactly.
but also we've got Cordero Patterson, formerly of the Atlanta Falcons. He has signed a 2-year deal worth $6 million with the with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This
Mhm.
is basically coming right after the kickoff rule has changed. And so I
Wait, they
like,
did change the kickoff rule?
yeah, and so I like the Steelers jumping on him because there is the potential for more
Mhm.
kick return action, more
Mhm.
potential kick return touchdowns. Patterson may be getting a little bit long in the tooth for that kind of thing, but man, the guy was electric, and so I like what Pittsburgh's doing by bringing him in, man.
Yeah, I completely missed what the vote on the new rules. I'm gonna have to check that up because I'm
Yeah,
sure
they
that's where
got
you're
rid
gonna
of the
go.
hip drop, which we talked about, and then they changed the kick return. I know we talked about them as being proposed, but both of those two went through. The kickoff and the hip drop went through.
Yeah, I hate that fucking kickoff rule.
It's dude, it's either going to be super exciting or it's going to be one step closer to getting rid of the kickoff.
Hmm.
And I do like in theory what they're saying is that it's going to encourage returns while also reducing injuries. If it can legitimately do that, it could bring back special teams into the NFL. And I would be a big proponent of that. But if this is just one more step towards teams just don't even care, we're just going to give them the ball and let them go on offense. But I think that the whole idea is that if you do that, they're getting the ball at like the 35 now or whatever it is, and so it's
Yeah,
you're kind of enticing them to try to have a return.
yeah. So here's while we're on it, let's go through. There were 12 approved rules changes going in at the league
Sure.
meetings. So you had the number one, which was proposed by the Lions, that if you have one successful challenge of your two, you get a third.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Then there was and I this is just blips. I don't have the actual specifics of them, so don't ask me more because this one's a little confusing.
So with the third one, is that so long as you have another timeout remaining?
I just said don't ask me questions because I just have the
Oh,
list.
sorry. Yeah, because they're not going to give you like a bonus timeout, right? It's just that if you get one of the two right, they're going to let you have another one, but you still got to probably have a timeout to do it. Because the one that you get right, you get the timeout back anyhow.
Probably.
But it's like, what if the first one's right, so you get the timeout back, but then you use the timeouts? Well, then you can't challenge anyhow, I guess. So,
Yeah.
um,
So I think you have to have a timeout to challenge
yeah.
anyways. So then the next one was so and this one's confusing on its wording, so I'm gonna have to delve more into it. I'm gonna have to find more on it, but it allows for the enforcement of a major foul by the offense prior to a change of possession in a situation where there are fouls by both teams.
Okay,
So it's just
sounds like favoritism
if
for the offense again.
no, like no, it's assessed against the offense.
Oh, I
So
thought
if
it
there's
was. I thought it was in favor of the offense. Okay.
yeah, so it's a major foul by the offense prior to a change of possession. So like if you have if if for instance
So is this like a kickoff or like a punt
no
thing?
like even from the way that sounds to me, so hypothetically, you know how if you have two penalties
Yeah,
like on the
offsetting.
same play, it offsets. So like if the quarterback throws an interception and prior to the interception there was offsides by the defense and holding by the offense,
Yeah, the
then they would
offsides was the first penalty.
they would enforce the holding because it's a major. I guess holding's not a major because it's only 10 yards, but
Um,
they would enforce that on the offense. And so instead of third and 10, it's third and 20. It
okay,
doesn't completely offset.
okay.
It's just on the face of it, that's how I understand it. I'll have to
Yeah, I got to see it play out to understand it better.
yeah. they changed now that they're now including a ruling of a passer down by contact or out of bounds before throwing a pass as a reviewable play.
Say that again.
They've added the ruling of a passer down by contact or out of bounds before throwing a pass as a reviewable play.
Okay.
I'm going to have to go to the explanations because this list is pretty bad. Ooh, this is an interesting one. They are now allowing a replay review when there is clear and obvious visual evidence that the game clock expired before any snap.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a tough one, right? Because in the past, they used to always talk about how the refs you'd have to like look at the snap and look at the game clock.
Yeah,
And
so
so
like
it was
how it
almost
kind of
always like
goes.
you could get about like a half a second or a second buffer, right?
Yeah,
And now they're
so
saying
like
they're not going to allow that anymore.
right, so you can review that. So like the back judge watches the play clock
Yeah.
or game clock from behind the offense, and that they watch that, and then when that hits zero, they look down to see if the ball is snapped. So that split second, the offense could snap the ball, even though the clock
Yeah, it
had
expired.
expired.
Okay.
The hip
Hip
tackle
drop.
or hip drop, thank you, rule.
Yep, which players are already bitching about. And I don't blame them because it's like we're going all offense now. But yeah.
So this is for 1 year only. This might be the kickoff rule, but this is just described really, really poorly. It's create a new form of a free kick play that is designed to resemble a typical scrimmage play by aligning players on both teams closer together and restricting movement to reduce space and speed and promote more. Yeah, this is the kickoff. This description is fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And promote more returns. Permits the replay official to automatically review whether a free kick legally touched the ground or a receiving team player in the landing zone.
Yes, we have a new term that we got to know now, the landing zone.
Ooh. Another rule proposed by Detroit to provide clubs with an unlimited number of designated for return transactions in the postseason. That's a IR designated to return.
Yeah.
I think they were limited to like 3 or 4. Now they can have as many as they want in the postseason.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to think of what the ramifications of that could be. You could be putting so many guys on IR, basically stacking your bench for the playoffs if you needed to call them back. I'm just trying to think
Yeah,
of the downside to it, right? I'm trying to play devil's advocate to all these things.
yeah. So like that's like you can get more people to come back from injury that got injured earlier in the season or later in the season in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So like the example is like the Aaron Rodgers injury. He was designated for return, but didn't end up coming back,
Yeah.
fully coming back. So
Yeah, they didn't activate him, yeah.
they didn't activate him, but so like that, like he could theoretically with Aaron Rodgers when he got hurt, it could have like gone into they could have made the playoffs and he could have come back in the playoffs for them. I'm gonna have to look when the trade deadline is because
I don't
it
want them to push it back. I want them to
they
keep it where it's at because to me,
do you know off the top of your head where it was?
it's like somewhere in November, right? But like for me, it's like you don't want it to be too close to the playoffs because you want teams to make a decision basically betting on whether or not they think they can still get in or not. Don't wait until it's so decisive because then it's like teams can just it's like you can really buy and really sell way more aggressively. And I get it, maybe some other sports do it that way, but for me, I like it that it's earlier because it's like you got to bet on yourself or you got to bet on making this trade and that this trade is going to make it. It's like a longer game, dude. I don't want it to be instant satisfaction because you already know what's going on.
So okay, so this is a little bit a better explanation. A better. I just found a. And it still doesn't say when it was, but it's now the Tuesday after week 9. I want to say it was like week 4 or 5.
Um, See, I thought it was a little bit later than that, but I guess we can probably Google it real quick. October 31st.
So it only
Now it'll
pushes it
be
back a
November
week.
5th.
Yeah,
So it's really only going a week later, I guess. That's not bad,
that's
man.
not bad.
But
So
and that's not bad because you got the extra week in the season, right? So that's not bad. I can handle that, man.
yeah. All right, this one. Expand the standard elevation rules to permit clubs to elevate a bona fide quarterback an unlimited number of times from the practice squad to its active lists to be its emergency third quarterback. Okay. That kind of makes sense, actually, in the wording. Proposed by Buffalo to make the injury reporting requirements for players who do not travel with their clubs to games away from their home city competitively fair. I guess you just have to say he didn't travel with the club or something on the designation. He's out if he didn't travel with the club, so
Yeah,
you have to put him as out, not
yeah.
questionable.
Uh,
What the fuck is that? So in 2024 preseason games and full implementation in the 2025 season, a specific of the field Hawkeye feed in the coaches booth for the coaches, and those are the 12.
okay. All right. The league is advancing and evolving.
Okay,
And so,
so the
yeah.
the injury designation, simply put, that teams must report the player has been ruled out before their team departs for the road trip. That's what it is.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because if he's not traveling with the team, not going, they have to just say he's going to be out. Obviously, if he's not traveling with the team, he's more than likely not playing. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's kind of nitpicky. Like, it's fairly common. Like all the time, I see somebody as questionable, and then it's like he didn't travel with the team. It's like, well, no shit, he's not playing then. Why? Like, I mean, that's common sense.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, could you mask it for a week so that maybe he gets healthy, that you don't have to disclose it the following week when he comes back? Or I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. There's obviously like some team did something wrong for it to come up, right? So
Yeah, obviously some team did something wrong before for it to come up, and that's
yeah, they
that.
should just like name it like the player or the team is like the rule. like the Donovan McNabb rule. Like, and then we all know, oh, hey, he did this and blah, blah, blah. And it was all fucked up. And now we got it bookmarked in our heads better. But
So
that's okay.
it was proposed by Buffalo. So my guess is it happened against Buffalo.
Yeah. Well, so then tell us who was involved and let us really just remember it. But that's okay. So, James, the last thing I got on the news before we get to our AFC pre-draft team needs is that the Kansas City Chiefs, they franchise tagged cornerback L'Jarius Sneed. He was traded to the Tennessee Titans, which I believe they gave up a third round pick, and then the two teams swapped seventh round picks. Um, Tennessee has extended him now, and I'm just looking at it right now. It's a 4 year, $76.4 million contract. I like that signing. I'm not totally sold that the Titans are moving in the right direction, but I like Sneed a lot. And as a Detroit fan, I've heard a lot of people complain that why didn't the Lions go and get him? That would have been way better than Carlton Davis or fucking get them both, like, especially now, I mean, woulda, coulda, shoulda with the Cam Sutton thing or whatever. Um, but I think that was a great deal for Tennessee, man. They didn't have much to get the guy, or didn't have to give up much to get the guy. You knew you were going to have to pay him anyhow, and they've got a legit CB1 for at least the next 4 years, man.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like in a rebuild mode. They got a lot going on, but it's kind of like you're bringing in your version of like a Revis onto that defense while you get everything else sorted out.
I'm sorry, I was distracted by.
Uh-oh.
What were we
You're
talking
laughing.
about?
L'Jarius Sneed getting traded.
Yes. Okay.
Oh boy.
I'm sorry. I'm distracted. I'm trying to figure out why this rule was proposed. Because it's bugging me. Like, what the fuck happened to Buffalo for them to propose this rule?
Yeah. It's Buffalo, dude. I don't know. I honestly, I'm surprised McDermott didn't get fired. And I know he's been defensive in some comments recently about, Buffalo's quote unquote lack of success and how he feels like they've been very successful. And they've definitely been very successful. But it's that the fans are demanding them to go farther every year into the playoffs, and they're not. And so it's like, what do you need to do to get over the hump? Do you need to change the coach? Do you need to shake up the roster? What is it? But you got to find a way to not be like in this flat line, sort of like we're good, but in like a good, weird kind of purgatory. Um, I don't know, dude. I see the desperation with Sean McDermott that he knows if he doesn't get to the fucking Super Bowl, he's going to have a problem. And the roster's going the wrong way, which means it's going to be even harder for him to get over that hump this next year, man.
True. This is bugging me. I'm sorry. I'm so distracted right now with this rule change that
All right, you look it up for a minute. I'm going to refresh my whiskey here. I'm going on mute. I'll be right back.
So interestingly, the Buffalo, when I search it, I'm finding Buffalo did not violate the injury designation rule and did not violate this. Did not violate it. So maybe Buffalo was accused of violating it. So they're like, let's just make it fair.
Yeah, that could be. I did not inhale.
Yeah, I did not inhale.
Sure. Just say I did it and I fucking liked it and whatever. Now I'm moving on with life.
Yeah. So maybe
All right,
Buffalo.
so just tell me now, because nobody's watching 50 minutes into the show, what's the inspiration for the Broncos Stadium?
I think they have the most that they need.
Okay, all right. You're talking about
Like
like for possible question of the week, who needs to have the biggest fucking draft or whatever in the AFC? Okay,
exactly.
all right. I got you. Because I'm like, nothing happened in Denver, dude. They're fucking hosed, man.
Exactly, but it ties into question of the week.
Yeah, they're like the team that probably has to organically grow the most because they have no
Hmm.
resources, right? So
Exactly.
that would make sense. All right. And I'll let you explain that in question of the week, but I just wanted to, I was just curious. So, all right,
Plus, I'm hearing
James.
a lot of rumors this week about the Lions are going to are going to try to trade for what's the one cornerback they have left's name?
Oh, for
Sertan.
oh, dude, if we could get Patrick Surtain the second, I'd be
Yeah,
pumped.
I've seen quite a few rumors that the Lions are trying to trade for him.
Okay. Well, yeah, and I mean, obviously, Dan Campbell, Sean Payton, they've got a
Mm.
history, so maybe we've got
Also,
some inside track to doing something.
also speaking of cornerbacks, Cam Sutton.
Yeah.
I I I read an article on the reason why the Lions cut him.
Yeah,
So
we didn't talk about that last week, right?
we
That's
talked about
new.
them. We talked about them cutting him
Oh, all right.
because but he was cut on like Wednesday. But so what happened was he found the Lions
Oh,
found
yeah, we
out
did talk about it. It was part of question of the week. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
that whatever sheriff's department was looking for him, he was in the Lions facility.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Apparently, the Lions told him, "You got to take care of this," and he just left and didn't do shit. So the Lions are like, you know what? We don't need you.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a bad deal, man. Bad deal.
Yeah. So that was. But yeah, I've seen a lot of rumors that the Lions are going to be trading for are trying to trade for Sertan.
Yeah, I did hear that they wanted to go after somebody either at cornerback or safety that's still left in free agency. And so I thought, okay, maybe they go after like the Steven Nelson guy you talked about. Maybe they bring in Justin Simmons. Whatever they do, a trade would be nice because then you're probably getting a more stable, proven player.
Hmm.
But I think no matter what, you got to be throwing some darts at it in the draft also. But with how close they got to making the Super Bowl, yeah, I
Hmm.
think you're at least signing somebody or trading for somebody as well as developing somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, man. So what do you think? You want to move on and do our pre-draft team needs here for the AFC?
Yeah, I'm good to move on to pre-draft team needs.
All right. So, in the past, I've liked to reference different articles. Usually I would reference like Chad Reuter's article with NFL.com. His unfortunately has not been updated since like February 11th, which is my problem. And so I've been looking at the CBS Sports article that's got the draft order and the biggest team needs, which was updated as of like 7 hours ago. Or
Hmm.
no, I'm sorry, 2 days and 7 hours ago. And I like it, but it's not alphabetical. And so we can sort of like jump up and down and do it like the way we normally do by starting with Buffalo and the AFC East and all that shit or whatever else. But that's just my proposal for how we attack it, man. What do you think?
I'm fine with however you want to do it.
All
That
right,
works
so
for me.
yeah, so let's just do what we normally do. We start with the AFC East, and that puts the Buffalo Bills first. And so, if I'm looking at the CBS Sports article, which by the way is written by Josh Edwards, I like this article. It's legit, dude. They summed up the players that they acquired, the players that they lost, and now what their pre-draft team needs are. Very good assessment, in my opinion. And so, looking at Buffalo, they've got the 28 pick. This guy is showing that they need cornerback, edge, offensive tackle, interior offensive line, safety, wide receiver, and then linebacker. It's a lot of needs, right? But he does a lot of needs for every team. You try to look at like the top 3 to 5 as like the priorities. Cornerback, I think, makes sense, right? Because they lost guys in the secondary. Edge, I think, kind of makes sense. And even obviously the next two on the offensive line, it makes sense. I don't think there's anything like sitting out here that's not consistent with what I would have expected for Buffalo, right?
I don't think so. I think it's about accurate. I think probably their biggest need is either going to be edge or cornerback.
Yeah, and I got to believe with the way Sean Payton plays, it's going to be the secondary. I mean,
Sean
he
Payton?
loves, sorry, Sean McDermott. Thank you. He loves having a stacked
Mm-hmm.
secondary, right? Well, they both do actually. Sean Payton does
Yeah,
too,
they
but
both do.
but yeah, Sean McDermott for Buffalo loves having a stacked secondary, and this is the first time in a long time he has a very depleted secondary.
Yeah. So I mean that makes sense that they would probably go secondary on that.
Yeah, and I also like bringing up the lineups ratings, right? Just to kind of look at it. Um, I think last year they did better getting the running backs involved. James Cook started having some pop games here and there. So I'm not too worried about that. I think at wide receiver, you got to wonder because Gabe Davis is gone and there's been a lot of trade chatter with Stephon Diggs. I could see where maybe you got to bump up the wide receiver on the priority a little bit if there's any credibility to Diggs being gone, they would be exposed there. Um, Man, otherwise, the defensive line's still not that bad. Yeah, you need a better edge presence, but linebacker's still pretty good. They're still not bad, man, but they're definitely down from where they were a year ago.
Yeah, they're like I keep harping on it. Like their window is slamming shut. Last year they threw Leslie Frazier under the bus,
Yeah, such garbage. Yeah.
and he's stepping away for personal reasons. Fuck you, you fired him. And I think McDermott's time there is becoming limited.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I already told you. I thought last year it was going to be done.
Yeah.
All right, so next up we got the Miami Dolphins. And the Dolphins have the 21st pick in the draft. This guy's showing team needs as interior offensive line, defensive line, tight end, wide receiver, once again, interior offensive line, edge, and cornerback.
See, I disagree with his list a little bit. Like, I don't know why he says they need cornerback
Yeah,
when they
or a wide receiver. You got
brought in
fucking
Kendall Fuller, or
Tyreek Hill and Jalen
why they need
Waddle.
a wide receiver, why they need
Well, maybe because Xavier Howard's gone, maybe they're thinking you got to do a little something there, but I know what you mean.
but even with Xavier Howard gone, like currently, if you look at their depth chart at corner back, you have Kendall Fuller and Kendall Fuller and where's the other one? Where's right? And they have
Jalen Ramsey
Ramsey,
still.
Jalen
Yeah.
Ramsey, and Kendall Fuller.
Yeah.
Why the fuck do they need a corner back?
Yeah. Well, and it's the bottom of their list, right? And so you got to have some depth and some things like that. I get that, but
But at
I know what you
edge,
mean.
they don't need an edge rusher either. With they're bringing
Because they
in
brought in Shaq Barrett. They did
Shaq Barrett.
lose Van Ginkel, but you're kind of like one for one there, right? So yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of a wash.
they brought in Jonnu Smith at tight end.
Yeah, that one, I don't know that tight end is a big priority for them, especially because McDaniel just hasn't utilized tight ends like that,
Yeah,
right? You know, they had
exactly.
Gesicki and they never used Gesicki. Man, I don't know. I'm not. I do agree with the interior offensive line being twice. In fact,
Yeah.
I would have put interior offensive line twice higher on the list, right? Like I would have had it be maybe two out of the top three or two, two out of the top four. They got it as two out of the top five.
hmm And like like they run a
Well, they
three
were going to
four.
move to a 3-4 with Fangio, but now he's gone. So I'm not
Uh,
even sure what they're doing this year.
that's true. So maybe defensive
But they
defensive
did
tackles.
lose what's his face to the Raiders,
Uh,
Christian Wilkins, fucking
Christian
sweet
Wilkins, yeah,
defensive lineman, man. So
yeah.
yeah, you
So
got to backfill him for sure, and you're not going to backfill him, but you're going to find a way to do it as best you can.
yeah, so like defensive line, interior offensive line, I 100% agree with those. I disagree necessarily with the other ones on the list.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, oh hey, you got to replace Cedric Wilson at wide receiver. Come on, if you can't do that in this year's draft, like in any round, like you don't need to be worried about it as your fourth draft need, in my opinion.
hmm
All right, so next up, then we got the New England Patriots, James. These guys, big time changing of the guard with Belichick going out, Gerard Mayo at head coach, Mac Jones gone at quarterback. Kraft is talking about them bringing in like a big name guy in the draft. Obviously, they got the 3 pick. This article on CBS Sports is saying their top needs are offensive tackle, wide receiver, quarterback, cornerback, wide receiver again, offensive tackle again, linebacker, defensive line, and tight end. Um, oh man, I don't even know where to start with this one.
Um,
I would probably, I would almost say you make quarterback number one, right? But
so let's
but
start
you
with
got to
the
protect him too.
ones that they don't need. They don't need a tight end. They have Hunter Henry and Austin
Yeah.
Hooper.
Yeah,
Do
you
not
don't
need a tight end.
need you don't need 3 qualified tight ends. So you can
Yeah,
knock that one off the list.
wide receiver, yeah, probably. Like,
They've always struggled to get wide receivers, right?
yeah. Um, Offensive line, definitely. Cornerback, I'm trying to glance at their cornerback. Okay,
They've
they have a
historically
what?
had a pretty good secondary, but I know they let go of what was it, J.C. Jackson or something, and
Yeah.
so
Well, they let him go, then traded for him, and then let
let
him
him
go.
go again. Yeah,
Yeah. Currently, their left cornerback is Jonathan Jones. They're good at right cornerback with Christian Gonzalez.
yeah, he's going to be good. Yeah,
So
yep.
yeah, cornerback. That I'll agree there. Well, linebacker.
Linebacker, I know they lost some guys, but they were fairly deep too. So I think I mean, they still got Matthew Judon, right? They still
Yeah,
got
so they have Judon and Uche,
no, they're
but
good at linebacker, man.
they need inside linebackers.
Yeah, so they still got Jelani Tavai. I don't know how much you think about him, but he is like a true two down middle linebacker, right?
Yeah, like I think they need
And they
I
brought in Sion Takitaki.
I for maybe okay, maybe linebacker they don't need.
Yeah, I think the offensive tackle thing is important.
hmm
I would make that like 2 of the top 3 needs or 2 of the
Yeah.
top 4.
So
And
basically what they need is offensive tackle and quarterback,
yeah,
wide
and a wide
receiver
receiver. It's
and
like
wide
those are
receiver.
those are going to be your top 3 draft
hmm
picks, and it's probably going to be in this order: quarterback, wide receiver, offensive lineman. Because
hmm
in the third round, you can still usually find a diamond in the rough on the offensive line.
But with this wide receiver class, you might be able to push wide receiver down the
You
list a
think
little bit.
you think you get your wide receiver one in the third round?
A lot of good wide receivers in this draft.
That's
There's a
fine.
lot.
That's fine. But it's still their top three needs, right? So
Yeah,
they've
it's
got it
still their
right.
top three needs, but
They've got
I
it
wasn't
right,
arguing
but
with
like
that.
beyond there, it's debatable. All right. So then the last team in the AFC East, we got the New York Jets. And so the Jets, I'm just scrolling here. These guys have the number 10 pick, and CBS Sports is saying wide receiver, tight end, offensive tackle, running back, safety, wide receiver again, and then cornerback. I'm just right off the bat going to say it's bullshit that they're putting wide receiver twice on here, and especially at number one. They've got what's his face, the young corner or the young wide receiver, and they just signed fucking Mike Williams, man.
I almost wanted to say Myles Garrett, but it's Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson, thank you. They've got Garrett Wilson, and they just signed Mike Williams. You don't need a wide receiver number one overall. Number one overall, in my opinion, is that you need to get somebody on the offensive line
Mm-hmm.
because you need more protection than not enough for Aaron Rodgers at this stage of his fucking career. And then tight end, are you kidding me? You've got Conklin Unuzoma still at tight end. Tight end should be way lower on this list. It should be offensive linemen. And once again, running back. You got Brees Hall. Are you kidding me? You need a running back? The list for the Jets here is all fucked up, in my opinion, man.
Yeah, offensive tackle. Maybe.
I'd double down on the offensive line because you know you've only got a 50% hit rate anyhow. Double down. Make sure you get at least one starter to help protect Rodgers, and then you can look at maybe backfilling whatever else you want.
So why the fuck do they need a cornerback when you have Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, this is a weird list for the Jets. This is a weird list. It's almost like it's almost like this guy saying their roster is that stacked that it's all just luxury picks. But I don't think it's that. I think it's a great roster, but you've got to protect Aaron Rodgers. And man, I mean, to me, that's like your one and only priority: protect Aaron Rodgers because you have pieces everywhere else.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
All right, so that one's a little dicey. Next up, James, we've got. Oh well, that's it for the East. Now we're moving to the AFC West. Um,
West.
yeah,
Isn't
no, sorry,
N
I'm looking
before
at.
W?
Yeah, no, I'm looking at a list that has East, West, North, South. Yeah, so normally we would go East to North.
East to North, yeah.
Yeah, so at the North we've got the Baltimore Ravens are the first team up. And we've got Baltimore with the number 30 pick in the first round. CBS Sports saying they need offensive tackle, interior offensive lineman, cornerback, defensive lineman, edge, wide receiver, and linebacker.
So
What's your take here, man?
offensive tackle, maybe right side. They have Faalili. They do not need a left tackle with
Mm.
Ronnie Stanley. Maybe backfill, but
But they did lose three of their starters on the offensive line. And so I agree with the top two being a priority.
yeah, interior. But they, like it's guard basically. Interior
Yeah,
offensive
I
line.
would
They
say
need a
I would
guard.
say, right tackle and then you need a guard and then
Yeah, they
shuffle it
have.
around whatever way you need to.
Well, because he lists players acquired as Josh Jones at offensive tackle, but they list him on the depth chart at guard.
Okay. Yeah. So
So they have
I would still take two shots at offensive linemen in this draft.
yeah. Um, Wide receiver, yeah, probably. They have Zay Flowers.
Yeah, I mean you got to lower on the priority list, right? But they lost Duvernay. Um, Beckham Jr.'s gone, right? Or did he come back with them?
I'm
I
not
think he's
seeing
still
him.
hanging out there.
I'm not seeing him on their depth chart.
Yeah. But it's Lamar Jackson. They don't highlight the wide receiver position anyhow. So,
Yeah,
you've got your guy, your wide receiver one, but it's really about the tight end for them.
yeah. Linebacker, I'll agree. Linebacker slash edge. I'll agree there. Um, I'm gonna lump because I think when I'm seeing this, they run a 3-4, so edge and then linebacker would be interior linebacker. They have Roquan Smith and Trenton Simpson.
Yep.
So
Yeah, which is still developing, right?
yeah,
So, yep.
Simpson's still developing. So I don't know if they necessarily need a linebacker unless you're well, the outside linebackers are Defi Owa and Oweh, however the fuck you pronounce that, and David Ojabo. So
Yep,
maybe
from Michigan, yeah. Ojabo.
um,
I know they've had high hopes for Ojabo. It took him a little bit longer than they wanted coming back from injury out of college, but this could be a good year for him, right? So,
yeah, cornerback. Yeah, I think their priority should be offensive line.
yeah,
Uh,
I think when you look at this team, it's a defensive team and it's a run heavy team, right?
mhm.
And if you're gonna defensively, I think they're gonna be okay. But you brought in Derrick Henry, you need to block and open up some lanes for him, or you're doing a fucking grave misservice to what you normally believe in and do as an offense. And so to me, they got to double down on offense on the offensive line position.
Yeah, I'll agree there.
All right, so next up, James, that takes us to the Kansas City Chiefs. And the
What?
Chiefs,
What? We're still on the AFC North. We just
oh
did
my God.
Baltimore.
Oh,
So
yeah,
on to the Cincinnati Bengals. And for the
okay.
Cincinnati Bengals, he has
Thank
tight
you.
end,
You
defensive
you
line.
take over here because I'm obviously scattering my tabs around. So
He
you
has,
take over.
he's tight end, defensive line, interior offensive line, edge, cornerback, wide receiver, offensive tackle. So when I look at this list, first of all, why the fuck is tight end number one on the list? They just brought in Gasecki.
Yeah, I think Gesicki's going to be really fucking good for them, by the way.
Why is wide receiver on this list? Their 1-2 is Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
It shouldn't be. It's well,
Um,
maybe if Higgins gets traded, right? Because he's asked for
if
a
Higgins
trade.
gets traded, but he's still there, so you
Yeah,
can't
and
list.
the team is saying that they believe they're going to get a long-term deal for both of them.
Yeah, so
Defensive line, I think, is the top priority. They lost Reader. You know, that
right,
defense has been sneaky good for them. Don't let it fall apart now.
yeah, and because offensive tackle they have Orlando Brown and Trent Brown, which I think they're fairly decent
I think they're
there.
going to be fine there. Yeah, I think they're going to be okay there.
Interior
Trent
off,
Brown's had injury issues, but you can't predict those, right? And so
right,
maybe you bring in another guy just as an insurance policy.
interior offensive line like Cordell Volson, Ted Karras, Alex Kappa. Maybe Volson. I'm not there on him, but maybe for left guard.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, the one thing that they don't have on here that I probably would add is that, Mixon's gone. They brought in Zach Moss to replace him.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put all your eggs in that basket with Zach Moss.
Mm-hmm.
Draft a
Mm-hmm.
running back.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a fucking sweet running back in the second, third, fourth round.
Mm-hmm.
Take a fucking shot, man, because if something happens with Zach Moss, you need to have some other guy there that could be your little flash in the pan or something more, maybe, man.
Yeah, 100% there. Like I don't know why running back's not on the list. I just I just don't think I agree with his list.
Yeah, I would put tight end way further down. I would put cornerback. I would probably do defensive line, maybe offensive line in whatever way, if you want it to be tackle or interior, just because of the importance of keeping Burrow healthy. And then I would probably have cornerback after that. And somewhere in there, I would add running back, but it would be ahead of, it would be, I would for sure have running back ahead of wide receiver. I would have it ahead of tight end. I don't know, but just my opinion, man.
Yeah. All right. I hate this because are you good with Cincinnati?
Yeah, I'm good with Cincinnati, man. Yeah.
All right. Then we have the Cleveland Browns, which this list is all fucked up again for them too. You have interior offensive line, offensive tackle, wide receiver, running back, linebacker, defensive line. Okay. How the fuck do you need a wide receiver if I'm going to go through their top three wide receivers? Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore.
Yeah, they just made the trade for Judy. They traded for Elijah Moore last year. And then what was it? They traded for Cooper the year before?
Yeah, exactly. And then also running back. They don't
Well,
need a running back,
it's I I did just see an article that they're expecting it to be a longer, slower recovery with Chubb. But
but they have
they
Jerome
had
Ford and they they
yeah.
they brought in Donta Foreman and Naheem Hines.
No, that's true. They had great success with Jerome Ford. So yeah, I hear what you're
Yeah.
saying, man. Yep.
All right. Let's go to.
Well, let's keep picking this apart for a second because I'm not like fully digested on
Oh no,
Cleveland yet, man.
I'm just going to the next position on the list.
Oh, all right. I thought you were ready to move on. I'm like, wait
No,
a minute, man. Wait a minute. I got to keep going on this one.
let's go to defensive line. I'm going to read you their starting four on their defensive line: Miles Garrett, Dalvin Tomlinson, Shelby Harris, Zadarius Smith.
Yeah, I love that fucking defensive line, dude.
What the fuck do you need on defensive line?
Well, Zadarius Smith is probably gone right after this year. He came back, but you know, and I maybe his deal was longer than a year, uh, but even then, I get what you're saying. It's a stacked fucking defensive line.
Yeah,
Um,
so like defensive line, yeah, maybe for depth, but
yeah. So
so
yeah, I mean, I guess the thing that it's curious is that their top four needs are all offense, right? And it's like, what are you trying to say? That you need to give Watson even more help?
uh,
I mean, this is a team that was one of the better running teams in the NFL. I would not say that they had a top five offensive line, but they had one of the better offensive lines. They've had now with the Judy trade, probably one of the top wide receiver trios,
uh-huh.
arguably.
So
Man, I just
this list is all fucked up. Defense
yeah.
linebacker. I don't see where they need a linebacker here.
No, no, but if I'm them, James, I gotta decide how are we gonna win now, and I would probably put all the resources in defense because I think there's enough there on offense, and if Watson can't make it work, you let him fucking sink, and you let
Hmm.
that defense carry you until you can say, hey, we did everything, and that fucker sunk us. Now he's gone after we fucking blew up this $200 million guaranteed contract.
I would I would agree with the top two needs he lists: interior offensive line
Yeah.
and offensive tackle. They need a left tackle. Their current left tackle is Jadarick Wills,
Yeah, he's good, man.
and they need a right guard.
Okay. Well,
Uh,
here, how about this? You know, you should have brought back Joe Flacco because he kept them alive, man. He kept that fucking team alive. But he's gone now. So what are you doing? DTR to back up? Well, no, they brought in Winston. That's right. So fucking Jameis is going to be backing up Winston or Watson if he fails.
yeah.
All right, sorry. No, I'm good with Cleveland, man. Yeah, I think it's. I don't know. You can shuffle that around in a lot of different ways, I think.
Yeah, but I think two of them were legit needs, and the rest were just garbage.
Yeah, wide receiver, definitely garbage. Running back, I think, suspect for sure. Um, yeah. And then defensive line, probably, it makes sense, but lower on the list makes sense, right? So,
Yeah, lower on the list. You're looking depth there.
yeah.
So, so then that brings us to the final team in the AFC North, the Pittsburgh Steelers, which he lists, seriously? He lists wide receiver, offensive tackle, interior offensive line, safety, cornerback, linebacker, defensive line.
So they have some hope that either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields is the answer at quarterback, right? And I think when you look, if you're looking at just this year, you're saying, yeah, we're set at quarterback. But I don't, I wouldn't take that off the list, man. I would still be
Mhm.
looking at quarterback as, if the right guy falls to you at the right spot, you fucking take his ass.
Yeah. So at wide, I could agree with wide receiver. I think it's the wrong spot, but I could
Yeah.
agree that
Yeah,
offensive
because
tackle.
Deontay Johnson's gone. They've got Pickens is there.
They
But
have
yeah, it's like you
Pickens,
probably need a little
Van
more
Jefferson,
juice. Yeah.
Pickens, Van Jefferson. Jefferson can be good, and then like their slot guy is Calvin Austin, whoever the fuck that
Okay.
is. Um, I would say offensive line, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and they have two out of the top three offensive line, but you might as well make it two of the top two.
Yeah, because yeah, last year they finally drafted an offensive tackle, and that was it. Broderick
Yeah. Right
Jones.
tackle. Yeah.
They need a left tackle. They need a left tackle. They need a left guard. They need a center. They need a right guard. That offensive line is fucking
They've
terrible.
needed it for 5+ years.
Yeah, and 3 years ago they drafted Najee Harris at running back instead of
Yeah.
drafting fucking offensive linemen. I
Yeah.
digress.
No,
Um,
I agree with you. They need all the help they can get on the offensive line. Um,
they don't need a linebacker.
no. No,
They
and I'm looking at
don't
lineups
need
right now. I'm just
cornerback.
skimming lineups tells me they don't need they don't need a tight end because they got Pat Fryermuth.
They don't need a linebacker. Well, tight end's not on this list, so
Yeah, so it's not it doesn't matter anyhow.
they don't
Um,
need a safety with having Deshaun Elliott and Minka Fitzpatrick.
yeah, I like actually I'm a big Deshaun Elliott fan
I
going
am
back
too.
to his time in Baltimore and then Detroit. I think that he's going to do really well paired with Fitzpatrick, man.
Hmm. They don't need cornerback with Dante Johnson and
Oh, uh,
Joey
Joey,
Porter.
yeah, Joey Porter Jr. Yep.
Um, Maybe defensive line. Also, of note on their defensive line is just Cam Hayward. Everyone
Yeah,
else,
he's getting a little bit long in the tooth.
he's
They
getting
need
long
some
in the
help
tooth.
there. Yeah.
Ogunjobi's good, but Keanu, they need the nose
Yeah,
tackle.
Keanu Benton, he was drafted last year and kind of underwhelming so far, but this could be a better year for him.
Yeah. It's just offensive line, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line. Just take
Yeah.
all 7 or 10 or however many picks you have this year and draft offensive linemen.
Yeah, I
One of
mean,
them
I,
will
I
work.
think, yeah, it's safety should be for sure near the bottom of that list.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. I like that assessment.
Then we have. Are you good with Pittsburgh?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Then we move on to the AFC South with
Yes.
Houston first.
Yeah, I don't know. These guys, they probably need a quarterback, right?
Yeah, definitely need a quarterback. So on the list they have cornerback, tight end, linebacker, wide receiver, interior offensive line, defensive line, and edge. So wide receiver, I'm going to disagree with. Tight end, I'm going to disagree with.
Well, yeah, because they brought back Dalton Schultz, right?
Yeah, exactly. They brought back Dalton Schultz. I'm going to completely disagree with that. Interior offensive line, maybe. I don't know much about Kenyon Green, so maybe.
Yeah, and I don't think you can ever be too strong on the offensive line, right? So, I'm
Yeah, because
probably never going to balk at it being in the top 5 needs.
right. Edge, why the fuck do they need an
Oh,
edge
yeah,
guy?
yeah. Now,
They just
now
brought in
Edge,
Daniel Hunter.
yeah.
They have Will Anderson Jr.
If you need an edge now, oh my gosh. This is one where, okay, so they brought in Mixon, but I would be looking at drafting a running back because
I would be looking at running back.
Yeah,
Yes,
Mixon's not a forever piece for them. Cincinnati got rid of him for a reason, right? So I would
uh-huh.
have running back for sure ahead of edge
I would have running back ahead of edge. I would have
and tight end.
yeah. I would have running back ahead of linebacker. Um, they have Christian Harris, Aziz Al Shahir, Henry Tutu.
Yeah, I did just want to see it at linebacker because that's one I wasn't totally sure on, right?
Yeah.
Because isn't Denzel Perryman gone?
Yes.
Okay, so
But
Perryman's gone, but they've got.
they brought in
Oh yeah,
Al
Aziz El
Shahir.
Shair was a great signing. Okay, Blake
Defensive line,
Cashman's gone too.
maybe Fatukasi. I don't know much about him. Cornerback, I don't think they need a cornerback. They
Well,
brought
they
in Jeff
lost Steven
Okudah.
Nelson, right?
Right, but they brought in Jeff Okudah and they have Derek Stingley.
Oh yeah, man, I always forget about Stingley, man. He got lost in the whole Sauce Gardner draft, right?
Yeah,
Because Gardner ended up being so fucking sweet, but Stingley's been legit too.
exactly. So why do they need a cornerback like Okudah? Okudah with his
Okuda was
flaws,
serviceable as a 2 in Atlanta, man.
yeah, and I think Okudah can be a 1. It's just
I don't
unfortunate.
know, man.
I think he can.
Maybe in time, but my opinion was that he was good as a 2 in Atlanta, and he'll be good as a 2 for Houston.
See, I have a high. I did not like where the Lions drafted him.
For sure.
I did not like that he was injured all the fucking time with the Lions.
For sure.
But I obviously have a higher. I like Okuda a lot more than you at cornerback,
Yeah.
and
I
I
just
think
don't think he's a 1, but I think he's got potential.
yeah.
All right. So, I mean, if you had to give me the top 3 needs, how do you rearrange this? Because I know you don't have cornerback or tight end in there.
I would say interior offensive line. Hmm. Interior offensive line.
Who do they have at defensive tackle?
Uh, their defensive tackles are maybe defensive tackle, interior offensive line defensive tackle. Like they brought in Danico Autry, but they have Fulerunzu
I go defensive tackle.
Fatukasi.
You
Inter-
have some sweet fucking edge guys. Get some pressure up the
Mhm.
middle, and that
Yeah,
defense is fucking lights out.
yeah, I agree. Defensive tackle. Like I had kept balking at it. I don't know if I could pick. I would maybe interior offensive line,
Yeah.
defensive tackle.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have a fuck, man. They've got such a sweet quarterback situation. Keep him protected. And honestly, I don't mind that they have wide receiver on that list. I maybe go interior offensive line, interior defensive line, and wide receiver because I want to keep giving my guy weapons, man. And I know
Yeah,
he's
maybe.
and I know he's got good weapons, but it's like I want to keep that cabinet fucking stacked all the time, dude.
Yeah, I could give you that. That makes sense. When I started picking it apart, I just started picking it apart, but I
Yeah.
didn't. And then when it came down to it, I couldn't come up
Well,
with.
you know me, they were a team that I wanted them to get Christian Wilkins because I was like, dude,
Uh-huh.
if you put a force in the middle and you have at least one amazing edge guy, oh my gosh, that makes it so hard for offenses because a quarterback typically can manage pressure when it's coming from one of the three phases, right? You've got the left, you've got the right, and you've got the center. They can handle it when it comes from one of the phases because they know how to move. But when you have it coming from two of the three, it is
Uh-huh.
very difficult as a quarterback. Even a veteran quarterback has a very difficult time with that. This is a team that could potentially have stacked the deck to have 3 out of 3. But right now they got 2 out of 3 with Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. obviously. So that's good enough.
Yeah. So then we move to you good with Houston?
Oh yeah, man.
We move to the Colts. I have no arguments with this list.
All right. So I'm pulling up their lineups and I'm trying to find them
So
on this list real
he
quick. So
has
yeah, go ahead.
he has cornerback, edge, safety, wide receiver, linebacker, cornerback. Maybe the second cornerback I
Yeah,
could
because they
argue
brought
with.
back Kenny Young, right? So that was good.
Kenny
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 Young at
Young.
cornerback.
Kenny Moore?
Holy cow. Thank you. Yes, Kenny Moore.
Okay. I was just you said Kenny Young and
No, I
I
know.
wanted to make sure that's who because I'm looking at him like I don't see.
No, I had the slip on Sean Payton and Sean McDermott earlier. Now I got
Yeah.
Kenny Moore, Kenny Young, blah blah blah.
So
This is why we
opposite,
do this in a team, James.
yeah, opposite Kenny Moore, they have Juju Brents. So I
Yeah,
understand
bring
cornerback.
in something there. Yep.
Edge, mm, maybe not edge because they have Quiddy Pay and Samson Abukum.
Yeah, and well, they still got DeForest Buckner on the interior defensive line,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and
And
interior defensive line is DeForest Buckner and Raquan Davis.
yeah, and it's like the secondary. It's like you talk about the quarterback's best friend's a tight end, right? When it's a young
Uh-huh.
quarterback. Well, the secondary's best friend's like the interior defensive line, right? Or even the edge, because if they get pressure, it takes the pressure off of the secondary. And so I would almost flip the edge in the cornerback because to me,
Yeah,
I prioritize the trenches, right? Because it's going to make everything else easier, like from the second and third layer on.
I'll give you that. Like when I first was looking at it,
Yeah.
I saw Quiddy Pay. I didn't see the other side. So
Yeah, but like, all right, so let's go to wide receiver. So who do they have other than Pittman Jr., right? So,
they have Josh Downs, Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce has potential, but he's not a two. He's a three. They need
okay.
a two.
But now you also have, all right, so hang on. I guess maybe the better way to look at this is you have Anthony Richardson that is sort of like Lamar Jackson-esque, right? So who do they
Mm-hmm.
have at tight end? That's probably the better question to ask.
Kylan Granson.
And Mo Alley Cox.
Yeah, Mo Alley Cox is decent.
I would
I've
probably
put tight
have
end on there.
tight end higher up on this list. It's not even
Yeah,
on this list. I would
yeah.
probably go for me. I would probably go edge. I might even go after that tight end because
Yeah.
I want Richardson to have everything he needs to succeed,
Mm-hmm.
and then the rest of it from there, I think I'm okay with, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, I can give you that.
It's just one man's opinion. Just one man's opinion. They still got
Mm.
Jonathan Taylor.
They still have Jonathan Taylor. Um, all right. You good to move to Jacksonville?
Oh yeah, my man.
All right. Jacksonville. He has wide receiver, cornerback, defensive line, edge. I don't know why this is at the last. Interior offensive line.
All right.
I
I My opinion is I'm doubling down on the offensive line
Yeah, I think they
because
have.
you saw how bad it was for
Hmm.
Trevor Lawrence last year.
I would put interior offensive line at number one. I don't know if I would put wide receiver on here.
Um, yeah, because well,
I
they lost Calvin Ridley, right?
But they brought in Gabe Davis,
So you've got
Christian Kirk, and Gabe Davis, and Zay Jones.
yeah, that's not a bad top three. My thing is, I don't think any of those guys are a one, right? But they're a really good trio. Just
Hmm.
none of them are a one. But they've still got Evan Ingram at tight end, right? So he's got
Yes,
hypothetically he's got four really really good receiving weapons. So
yes.
yeah, I don't think wide receiver needs to be at the top. I think offensive line twice needs to be at the
Hmm.
top.
And then cornerback, I could give him that.
Yeah.
I think that's about
Yeah, and they
accurate. They
brought
had.
in Darby, but he's a 1 year journeyman and they lost
Mhm.
Williams, so you got to get more help.
Yeah, they do have. Um, don't have. Then they don't really have. They have Tyson Campbell on the other side. So that's edge. I think I'm going to disagree with edge because they have Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen.
Yeah, I don't know that what are you going to do? Add a part-time guy at the edge?
Yeah. Um, and defensive line, they have Eric Armstead, Devon Hamilton, and Roy Robertson Harris. Maybe defensive line. So I'll give them defensive line.
No,
So
no. Eric Armstead, man, you Eric Armstead and those two edge guys right there makes it so formidable. I don't know, man. I just
I
it's
said I could give him
you're right.
give
You're right. I'm
give
getting too
them
worked up. I'm getting
defensive
too
line.
worked up.
I could give it to him as a possible need. I'm not saying that it is a
Yeah,
need, but
yeah,
I can't necessarily argue with it because the more you beef up the defensive line, the less you need a
yeah.
cornerback.
But we agree Trevor Lawrence doesn't need a wide receiver as much as he needs protection.
Exactly.
And he's their franchise guy. Protect him first, figure out the rest later.
Yeah.
All right. Tennessee Titans, my man.
All right. Then we're on to the Tennessee Titans.
My son was fucking heartbroken that they don't have Derrick Henry anymore, by the way.
Why?
He just got a fucking sweet Tennessee Titans hoodie. And I was like,
Oh.
bud, it's too bad Derrick Henry's gone. But I was like, it's okay. Will Levis. I was like, they got other guys. It's going to be okay, my man. And he was just like, but Derrick Henry's gone. I was like, yeah, sorry, bud.
All right. So I'm going to disagree a lot with this list
Okay.
towards the end of it. So he has listed offensive tackle, defensive line, edge, linebacker, interior offensive line, wide receiver, cornerback, and tight end. So offensive line, I can give them that. They have
Yeah, I can give him that twice. I'm good with
offensive
him.
tackle. I would go offensive tackle, interior offensive line, interior offensive line, interior offensive line.
Yeah, just you need a whole new line.
Yeah. Edge, yeah, I can give them edge. Then I would go edge at number 6. Linebacker, I'd give them linebacker.
I'm just going to be honest, James. All right, so when you look at lineups, and lineups doesn't have all the updates, okay?
Mhm.
Um, this is the team that has by far and away the most red on their roster. And red is bad.
Mhm.
Red is really bad, man. They need so much, man. They need so fucking much. It
They
blows my
don't.
mind that just like what, 2 years ago, Fucking Vrabel had him in the playoffs, man.
Yeah. Oh wait, I don't. So I I would I misspoke. I would give them offensive tackle, interior offensive line, interior offensive line. I wouldn't
Yeah.
do a third because they brought in Cushenberry. I forgot about Cushenberry.
Well, all right. So they brought in Cushenberry, and they also last year drafted, what's his name out of Northwestern? They drafted Skoronski,
Skronsky.
and
Yeah.
Skoronski, he's kind of like their mobile piece on that offensive line. He can pretty much play anything other than center, but the dude has a ton of upside, and so.
Yeah. He has a ton of
So
upside.
I think you got at least one solid piece on the offensive line, or two now, two.
Two. We got two. So I forgot about Cushenberry. So two offensive tackles because their offensive tackles currently are Nicholas Petitferre and Dylan Redunce.
Well, and so they brought in an offensive-minded head coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
They brought in, what was it, the coordinator from Tampa Bay, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
And so,
Was it Tampa Bay or was it? It might have been Tampa Bay. I forget who it
I
was.
don't, I could Google it, but I'm like, too many whiskeys in at this point, to be honest. The bottom line is it's an offensive-minded head coach, and they're depleted so far around the roster. But they've got Levis at quarterback. They brought in Ridley at wide receiver, Tony Pollard at running back. To me, it's build the trenches first, right? You and I talk about this every year.
Oh no, that's Tampa Bay. Why did I search for Tennessee and it came up with Tampa Bay?
Because I thought they brought in, maybe it was Tampa Bay's offensive coordinator. Or did he go to Carolina? Canales?
Canales went to Carolina. Brian Callahan is the head coach.
Okay. So, all right. So either way, my bottom line is we always preach building the trenches first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you have an offensive-minded head coach, build that offensive line first. So you've got a guy that arguably has a wide receiver in Ridley. He's got a running back in Tony Pollard, and maybe you've got a shot in hell with Will Levis at quarterback, but the only way you're going to have that shot in hell is if you fucking give him all day to throw the goddamn ball. So they need to be going lights out to build that offensive line, and then they can figure out anything else because they have holes everywhere on that team, dude.
Yeah, they have holes everywhere. They including at quarterback.
Yes.
Oh, did I say that out loud?
Well, I mean, hey, I like Levis minus him, whatever it was, eating the weird shit before the draft to get his fucking shock value built up and whatever. But, he's probably the most ripped quarterback I've ever seen.
Banana or something, shit like that.
Yeah.
Something ridiculous.
And the crazy thing is he had like 9 touchdowns last year, but like 4 of them were in one game. And so it's like, man. I like him. I like his energy, his enthusiasm, all that. But to me, you need to build like a Dallas Cowboys pre-Dak Prescott offensive line if you want Will Levis to make it in this league. And it could happen, but you got to give him all-day protection.
All right. Yeah. You have to give him a lot of protection. He has a cannon arm, but I don't know if he can throw the short pass.
Yeah, is the touch there and the accuracy there?
Thank you. I couldn't think of does he have the touch or does he just have the cannon? All right, is that good with Tennessee?
Yes, my man.
All right. We're gonna skip this next team because they need every position on the roster.
Is that the Denver Broncos?
Yeah, moving on to the AFC West, we're with the Denver Broncos. He lists quarterback, defensive line, cornerback, safety, interior offensive line, wide receiver, linebacker, edge. I would throw tackle. I would throw
Yeah, I
I,
just don't know. I don't know what Denver's doing, right? Like it's when you look at their team on lineups, man, it's
all right. So Denver, here are the positions that Denver has. They have a good running back
if he stays healthy.
if he stays healthy. They have a good one good wide receiver if he
Okay,
stays healthy.
but he's also a very limited possession wide receiver.
Yes. They have a
Well,
right
well,
tackle.
all right, but Marvin Mims might be, he showed some flashes, so maybe Marvin Mims comes up.
They they need they have a right tackle and a center.
Yeah, right tackle, they're for sure very good.
Yeah. I think Alex Forsyth
Yeah, but who do
is
they have
very
at
good.
center? Because isn't Cushenberry
Alex
gone now?
Alex Forsyth.
Uh, yeah, but how good is he, man? Lineups has him at a 67.
Right, but he's going into his second year.
All right, yeah. So
It
give him,
last
yeah. So give him some credit. Okay, I got you. See,
I
lineups. Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
um they have a left
Oh,
cornerback.
and they got Quinn Miners, right? He's still there. He was good at guard.
Oh, yeah, I miss him. So they have a right guard. So they need a left guard, a left tackle, a tight end, a couple wide receivers, a quarterback, defensive line,
But tight
edge.
end's a luxury pick until you get some of this other shit.
Actually, I think I'm going to take that back. I don't think they need a tight end.
I mean, well, Troutman's gone, I thought. So you've
They
got
have
Dolchik.
Dolchich, who's going into his
Yeah,
third year.
And Dolchik has had some upside. He just hasn't put it all together on the field yet.
Yeah,
But if he could, he's a receiver kind of tight end guy. If they've got a young quarterback this year, then that's probably ideal.
yeah. They have they have Sertan currently, and that's about all they have.
Yeah, dude, this roster's fucking. I don't know how they could even entertain trading Sertan, to be honest, especially because it's a Sean Payton team. Um,
The
Man,
only way, and just hear me out, is tank for a year. This year, do frickin' offensive line.
yeah, build the trenches,
Build your trenches this
build your
year.
foundation,
Next
and
year,
then
have the
go
number
from
one
there.
overall pick and get a quarterback.
That's got to be such a tough pill to swallow if you're Sean Payton, right?
It does, it does. But you're also looking that Sertan is going into his fourth year,
Yeah, and
so
so
you have
maybe
the
the only
league
way that you can
option.
do it is if you trade him for resources.
Trade him for resources because to keep him when the team actually has a
So,
chance to win,
all
when
right,
the team actually going to have a chance to win, to keep him, you're going to have to pay him a lot of fucking money.
so they're picking 12th overall, right?
Mm.
With some of these mock drafts, man, I'm seeing five quarterbacks going in the first round. I gotta believe Denver is gonna take one and try to make it work now.
Honestly, you are probably correct there, but the thing of it is, to do that, they are going to have to trade up.
Yeah, I think Sean Payton's fucked, dude. I think that
Yeah.
him going to Denver looked so good on paper when it happened, and it just it's been a disaster, man. It's been a
So
disaster.
so the top three teams, Chicago, Washington, and New England, all need a quarterback.
Yeah, and none of them are moving unless they get like a fucking sweet fucking deal, right?
Right. Then at number six, the Giants. I think they need a quarterback most people don't.
Oh, I agree. I think they need one too. And a lot of these mock drafts are now showing them taking a fucking quarterback. So it could happen, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think Mac Jones is on the cap for like 45 million this year.
Then you have after that, Tennessee really doesn't need a quarterback. So let's just go through it real quick. Chicago, Washington, New England. We're not talking about NFC this week, but
Yeah,
all
just
three of
overall.
those
Yeah,
teams need quarterbacks. Arizona, Los Angeles Chargers don't need quarterbacks.
No, they're fine.
Giants need a quarterback. Tennessee is probably going to try to stick it out with Levis. Don't need a quarterback.
I would bet Tennessee's hoping some of these quarterbacks start to slide and they can trade out of this pick for more picks.
Mm-hmm. Then you have Atlanta. They just signed Cousins. They don't really need a quarterback.
Chicago's fine at 9.
Chicago's fine. Jets probably
They're not drafting one in the first round. No way. Even though they know Rodgers is a short-term thing,
right.
You're not going to burn a first-round pick when you're all in right now. And Minnesota wants one, and they're probably going to try to trade up.
Yeah. Then you have Minnesota, who needs a quarterback as well, and Denver that needs a quarterback.
And the Raiders right after them.
The Saints. The Seahawks probably need a quarterback. Rams are probably going to need to replace Stafford.
Yeah, they got to start finding a guy. Yep. Jeez. This is such a quarterback needy year, man.
Tampa Bay is going to need a quarterback. That's it. So, and then you have teams that don't have first round picks that probably need a quarterback, and I would argue that Cleveland does, but could argue that Cleveland does, but I could argue
but they're
that
going to have to take one in the mid or late rounds so that they don't have to pay anything for him, right? And they just got to hope he's fucking sweet. Oh man,
it's a really quarterback needed team.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't know if Denver, without trading up, gets a quarterback in this draft. That's all I'm saying.
All right. So yeah, who's next then? The Chiefs?
Chiefs are next. So on this list they have quarterback.
No, not the Chiefs.
Oh, sorry.
Like, whoa, wait a minute. We're all fucked up here, James. What's going on?
Sorry, no. I was just fucking around. They have offensive tackle, wide receiver, cornerback, defensive line, linebacker, safety, running back, edge. All right, offensive line. Okay, they have Jawan Taylor on the one side who false starts all the fucking time, and on the other side,
they need a left tackle.
They need a left tackle. I agree there. Wide receiver.
They brought in Hollywood Brown.
And they
got Rashee Rice.
But they don't really need a wide receiver. Patrick Mahomes.
I'm just saying.
That roster they had last year, they won the fucking Super Bowl and didn't have a fucking wide receiver.
I agree. They answered it with Hollywood Brown. You got him. You've got developing Rashee Rice, and you still have Travis Kelce. They're fucking set.
Yes.
But Mahomes will make anybody else a 3, 4, 5, whatever they need, man.
Yeah. They don't need a running back. They have Pacheco.
Maybe a running mate with him is depth. And so I'm okay with it being farther down the list like this, but I know what you mean.
So then let's go to the defensive needs at cornerback.
Snead's gone. I might make Snead. I would for sure put cornerback ahead of wide receiver.
Yeah. I'd put cornerback ahead of wide receiver. Defensive line.
So Chris Jones his time's running out. So you probably somewhere in there throw a dart.
They just signed him to like a 5-year deal.
I know, but dude, here's my thing. He's long in the tooth. You start developing guys now because he's going to start fading.
Damn, I didn't realize he was that old.
He's going to start fading,
right.
dude.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to argue that now seeing how old he was. I was thinking he was like 3 years younger than he was. Linebacker, yes, they need linebacker.
Yeah, they do have one really good what's his name? Bolton, younger guy.
Bolton
But
and Tranquil are good, are pretty
oh yeah,
good.
and they brought
It's
back
Chanel.
Tranquil. Yeah, they brought yeah,
It's
and I forgot about Chanel. Yeah. Okay, so no, they're okay at
yeah, they're
linebacker,
okay.
but yeah, maybe bring in one more but a lower priority.
Yeah, safety.
I probably put safety ahead of linebacker.
I put safety ahead of linebacker. Edge.
I probably put edge above a lot of them because I value the
Yeah.
trenches.
No, I'd put edge probably third, fourth on the list.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Three or four, that's good. But I keep running back on there, probably towards the bottom. But I keep running back on there because I want to have someone to go with Pacheco because he could get hurt at any time, and you need someone else there.
Hmm.
And McKinnon, I don't know if he's finally gone or what, but Edwards-Helaire, between all those guys, they've just never had stability at running back, right? So
So McKinnon and Edwards-Helaire are no longer there.
yeah, then I'm definitely keeping running back on the list, but it's going to
Yeah.
be lower on the priorities.
So they have. I saw P Ryan. I was like, they got Samaje P Ryan. No, it's LaMichael P Ryan.
Oh yeah, yeah. From the
So
where was he? The Jets or something? I forget where he was at before, but
he was with the. Let me find it. He was with the Jets. You're
all right.
100% on.
Yeah, I did like a lot Samaje P. Ryan. Man, the dude fucking ripped up the bench press in his fucking combine.
Mhm.
Such a power back, but he showed versatility at the NFL level, and that's why Sean Payton brought him to Denver. But yeah, not to go on a tangent, but yeah, but they need a complementary running back. But the problem is running backs are like a dime a dozen, and when you have Pacheco, the clear-cut one, you don't need to invest highly in a running mate, but keep it
Yeah.
on the list and get a guy in the mid rounds because you want to have a serviceable guy if you need him. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, wow. Time flies. Next, we have. You good to move on?
Oh yeah.
I'm just telling the wife that I don't know when we'll be done yet.
Oh boy, I'm chewing up too much of your time.
Yeah. The Raiders, they need quarterback, interior offensive line, cornerback, defensive line, linebacker, offensive tackle, running back. I have no arguments with this list.
I think you can take defensive line off with them bringing in Christian Wilkins.
Yeah, but
Maybe you want to add an edge guy
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
to
I
pair with
put
Crosby,
edge to pair with Crosby, but
but that's still a pretty badass 1-2 punch on the
mhm,
defensive line.
they need a lot. I would move offensive tackle up a lot.
Yeah, I'd double down on offense. I would
Yeah, I do
quarterback and
quarterback,
two offensive line.
offensive tackle, interior offensive line.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Keep it going. What's next? I know you got to go, man.
And we have the last team in the West, the Los Angeles
Your favorite team.
Superchargers, which let me find it on the list. Nope, that's the Rams. Chargers. They need a wide receiver, a cornerback, defensive line, offensive tackle, linebacker, wide receiver, running back. Let's take a look. Obviously,
What pick do they have, dude? I must have skipped
they're
over them.
fifth.
Oh my God, I didn't even think they were that high. Holy shit. Okay.
I would move running back. I would move. I would. I would put this in this order: wide receiver, offensive tackle, at being fifth, wide receiver, offensive tackle, running back. I think they need to shore up the interior offensive line too. They have Lindsley, but their guards
Yeah,
are
just do it again. Just do it again. Well, and you've got Harbaugh coming in. He's going to
Mhm.
want to emphasize the running game. Uh,
I
build
think
build that
there's
offensive line, dude. Build that offensive line.
I think I would move the defensive line linebacker to the end of the list, cornerback, defensive line linebacker to the end of the list,
Well,
and
it's can you get a run stopping defensive tackle because they've been missing that for years, right?
yeah,
And you can find those guys in like the third, fourth round if you're savvy. But will this be one of those draft classes where you can do it?
maybe.
I like what you're saying there, man. It's you got a changing of the guard with the head coach. They're kind of in a little bit of salary cap hell,
I
and
don't think they I
but
don't
they're
think they need
working
a
around it,
linebacker
man.
at all. I don't
Yeah.
think they need a linebacker at all. They have Bosa, Perriman,
Well, I know,
Neiman,
but Bosa's
and
more an
Khalil.
edge guy, right? Um,
Okay, so but they do a 3-4. And defensive line, didn't they just draft Puna Ford like 2 years ago?
no, no, no. Poona Ford was with the Seahawks, and then he went to Buffalo, and now I don't even know where the hell he's at.
I guess it's going into his sixth season. I'm thinking of somebody else then. He was with Seattle and then Buffalo, and now he's with the Chargers.
Okay.
Yeah, I would go offensive line, wide receiver, and running back as like
Yeah.
the biggest priorities for them.
You've got an offensive-minded head coach. Come on, man. Build from your strengths, and then go from there. I
Yeah,
think for them it's give Harbaugh all the pieces he needs to make that a top five offense, and then next year he can start filling in the defense, man.
exactly.
All right. So with all that being said, James, let's go to our question of the week. And I know you got to get going here, but I just want to know, based off of all these teams we looked at tonight in the AFC, which one of these guys has got to hit the fucking draft the hardest to have the biggest impact on this upcoming season?
I think it's Denver. And the reason I would say Denver is because Sean Payton didn't sign up for this shit. And
Yeah.
they have so many holes that if they want to keep Peyton, there has to be hope for the future. And right now, there's no hope for the future.
I like that. I like that the way you put that. To me, it's like Denver, Los Angeles Chargers,
Mm-hmm.
or Tennessee Titans. Those are
Yeah,
my three. It's like those three teams, man, they got to do something like right fucking now, or they got a problem. And
mm-hmm.
I think the Chargers have time, right? Because Harbaugh's coming in and Herbert's young, but you're not going to give Harbaugh 5 years to turn the team around.
Exactly.
And he's in a highly competitive division.
Yes,
Tennessee is like you're about to be a bottom feeder if you don't just hit a home run in the draft, man.
that's true. But I think with them hiring not such a big name and
Yeah, it's
as a
almost kind of
catcher,
like if you flop, we're just
if
going to
you
rebuild in a year or two anyhow, right?
yeah,
So
if he could,
yeah,
but they hired somebody that's not a big name that there's not those instant expectations on where the
yeah,
Chargers have
and
that.
at least Harbaugh has a quarterback.
Yeah,
So no, I
it's
think you're right. I think that Sean Payton and the Broncos have the most pressure to get it right in the draft, man.
yeah,
I
which
like
is
that breakdown.
why I picked to go to Denver. Answer question of the week.
Hey, whoa, it makes sense. It all comes together. Oh, it's almost like we planned this out, James.
Almost.
I don't know, almost, yeah. All right. Well, hey, bud, I'll let you go. I know you got to get going, but anybody who's watching, question of the week, blah, 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 subscribe, all that shit, blah, 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 blah. Okay, bye bye.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.